What's up everyone, welcome back to another Armada Mega SCF non-transforming figure review. This time we're taking a look at the Super Mode Optimus Prime. And I've got to say right off the bat that this is probably my least favorite of the Mega SCF figures, unfortunately. It doesn't mean he's terrible by any means because I quite like the line overall, but I just think he's the least accurate and he kind of has some awkward proportions. To start with, I feel like his shoulders are too small, his arms are too thin, and his hands are gigantic. His head kind of feels like there's a little bit left to be desired there in terms of the sculpt, and the black lines on the hands and on the thighs and crotch area and on the shoulders feel a little bit tacky and not super well done to me. It's kind of like if a kid took a Sharpie and panel-lined them. Doesn't look that great. His gun is also comically small, and it might just be my copy, but he has a hard time holding up this arm with the gun in it, which is very unfortunate considering the main selling point of these figures is supposed to be poseability, and he can't keep his posing arm straight. That being said, there's still a lot to love about the figure. For one thing, the paint apps are generally good except for the black detailed lines there. Except for the back here where they neglected to paint this block, which would be his regular mode arms, which is weird because on the smaller SCF figure you can see they did color in that back area with the gray smokestacks there. So I don't know why they neglected to do it on the bigger one here. I do like all the other colors they used that pops more than the smaller SCF figure. And they also have an added detail of the little gray there on the top of his shoulder, which the smaller one does not have. Although the smaller one's proportions in general look better to me because they don't have hinges in the elbows, the hands aren't comically large, the gun looks better proportioned, so this one is probably the better looking one if you just want a little Super Mode Optimus sitting on your shelf. If you want something a bit bigger with more poseability, then you go for this one. Speaking of poseability, he does have some very limited leg poseability, which is cool that he has any at all, given that the main Super Mode Optimus, of course, has none whatsoever. So we've got a slight knee that goes more forward than it does backward, and a hip that goes in and out like that. If you were to remove his backpack here, which it feels like you can, but I've never done it, then his legs would be able to go back further, but they run into the back there. He has no waist articulation. His head is on a ball joint and can go a little bit to the left and right and forward and backward, but not much. It mainly just goes left and right. His shoulders here are on ball joints, so they can spin 360 degrees all the way around. His elbow, as I said, is very loose, but it does hinge 90 degrees forward and backward, and he has a bicep swivel as well. He is also the only figure in the Mega SCF line to come with exchangeable hands. I don't know why it's only him, maybe because they figured that his hands would actually be big enough to remove, and I feel like this feature is probably one of the reasons why his hands feel so comically large to begin with. I'm not going to pop them off because these small tabs on their weapons and body parts are really fragile, and I'm afraid of breaking him. But he does come with two open style hands if you want to pose him with two open hands instead of the fists. Overall, the sculpt is really solid. One thing I like is that they kept the tread details there on the back of his hamstrings. You can actually see the treads there that would be part of his trailer, which is really cool. His back also has a small storage port for his gun. Like I said, those pieces are very fragile, so I'm not going to pop it out of his hand and try to port it there, but he does have that. For a very quick size comparison here, you can see that he's shorter than even the smallest Deluxe Armada Prime, which I have here, or at least the Cybertron repaint of that mold. He's much smaller than the original Leader Class base mode, and of course he's much smaller than the original Super Mode figure. His blue paint is also a significantly lighter blue, though not quite as light blue as the even smaller SCF figure. There's actually one more comparison I want to make, which is the comparison to this. I believe it's pronounced Kabaya Big Transformer. This is another type of non-transforming Armada figure that was only available in Japan. As you can see, it is much less painted. It also chooses to go for the American gold color instead of the usual yellow one you see on the Japanese releases for some reason. Much less toon accurate looking, but he does have more of a bit of a dynamic pose. His proportions are a bit better. He can hold his gun up better, and he has spark plug plugged into his shoulder, which is pretty cool since that's usually how he had it in the show. So, if you're in the market for a non-transforming Armada Super Mode Prime, this is probably your main other option, besides the smaller SCF figure. And so that's about all there is to say with this particular SCF figure, I think. Definitely not my favorite, but still a cool representation of Armada Prime in his Super Mode. There were only so many figures made of Armada Prime in his Super Mode, and I think I've got most of them right here. So definitely a cool piece of Transformers Armada history, and I recommend him if you're a hardcore collector. But if you're just looking for one or two of the Mega SCF figures, I would definitely put him last in the list of priorities. Anyways, that's Super Mode Mega SCF non-transforming Optimus. There are more reviews for the other non-transforming Mega SCF figures on my channel, and stay tuned for more Transformers content.